welcome to Real Economy. I'm Maitreyi Sitharaman, and this week we're in Amsterdam talking about competitiveness within the European Union for both companies and countries. On the show today, we'll talk about the challenges ahead for Europe with Emma Marcegaglia. She is the President of Business Europe and the co-CEO of the Marcegaglia Group. We'll also taste Europe's sweet tooth for competition while taking a peek at the flag that Amsterdam is flying for competitiveness. It's easy to shrug off competitiveness as simply creating the best product for the cheapest price versus a rival. But it's not that simple. So here's our crash course.
A business's competitiveness is the attractiveness of the goods and services it produces. By extension, the competitiveness of a country reflects that of all of its enterprises. There are two kinds: price competitiveness and non-price competitiveness. The first is a company's capacity to sell its products at a lower price than its rivals. That depends on several factors: production costs and the productivity of the business itself, currency exchange rates, which affect the price in foreign markets, and transport costs. Non-price competitiveness is a business's ability to pitch products based on their quality, their brand, or their innovative characteristics. To measure how competitive a country is, we can compare the evolution of respective production costs, or the price of locally made products, with those of other countries. But that only takes into account price competitiveness. It's not so easy to quantify non-price competitiveness. Factors to consider are the evolution of productivity, which accounts for production costs and may also reflect the capacity to innovate, the quality of infrastructure, or the workers' skills, for example.
Europe's got a single market with citizens that enjoy some of the highest standards of living in the world. So you could be forgiven if you compared competitiveness here to a rich chocolate made of 22 million companies with more than 500 million consumers. But the recipe for that chocolate is not the same across the Union. So how do we stay competitive despite all those structural disparities? Sebastian Le Belzic indulged his sweet tooth to find out.
Brussels, the world capital of chocolate. Crowded into just a few hundred square metres are the country's top brands, Europe's finest. Leonidas is the oldest.
The recipes have barely changed in 100 years. Everything's made in this kind of workshop, as the boss Claude explained to us.
Well, we start by emptying the chocolate onto the marble. And we spread it out. Why? So we can shape it into the form of a chocolate shell.
To stay competitive, the most important ingredient of Belgian chocolate is that the manufacturing process remains traditional and unique. The production costs include 60% raw material and 30% labour. The craftsmanship is costly but difficult to replicate.
The European label, and particularly the Belgian one, is important for the quality of the products and the quality of the manufacturing. They're expensive, but they're productive. So we have 100 years of tradition and expertise here. To do this elsewhere is always more complicated.
90% of this brand sales are in the Eurozone. Only 1 in 10 boxes of chocolate take the plane to the US, Japan or China, the three main export markets. Europe is the priority, however, as there are no trade barriers.
We're seeing more and more protectionism from the US. So, there's more potential in European markets. We're already strong in the Benelux countries and France, and there's not bad potential in Germany and England, where there's a culture of chocolate consumption.
Exports account for 40% of the company's turnover and 52% of the turnover of the entire Belgian food industry. That sector has grown more as a component of the economy than any other European country in the last 10 years.
Companies like Leonidas push their country's competitiveness, but the hurdles on that road are plenty. So I caught up with Emma Marcegaglia, famously known as Italy's Woman of Steel, co-CEO of the Marcegaglia Group and president of Business Europe. I began by asking her what are the main challenges faced by European businesses for competitiveness.
The challenges, in my opinion, are first of all to be innovative, to understand how to produce new products that the people like. The second is to create jobs and have trained people, good people to work with them. And third, also to go international, to go and conquer new markets where the consumer is growing a lot.
It seems almost impossible to understand why then there are so many trend divergences within a monetary union, within the European Union.
The problem is that we have to be competitive in a similar way. Just to give you an example, the same energy policy all over Europe. It's not possible that in one country the price of energy is very high, in another country the price of energy is very low. Another example is what we call internal market. It's not nice that, for example, an Italian company or a French company has some problems in working in Germany or in the UK. So to create a level playing field, I think we need more Europe.
Why isn't this happening?
Because we still have less Europe and we still have a member states that wants to keep some national policies. In this crisis, we conquer some market shares in the world. I think overall the industries works for more efficiency, less cost. They try to be more innovative, but still we have a lot to do because we still have to create a lot of jobs. I mean, the unemployment rate in Europe is still too high.
If you look at the emphasis that's placed on cost, which is substantive, should we not be focusing on something a little bit more abstract, which maybe economists disagree on, which is competitiveness?
We have to have the same policy in energy, in research and investment, in infrastructure. But also, I think the idea is that we have to be competitive, so to conquer market share also outside Europe. Because if we only look inward Europe and we regulate Europe and we only look at what is going on in Europe and we don't understand what's going on, for example, in the United States, in Asia, that's not good.
That brings up then the question, what do European businesses have to do to place themselves in the correct spot on the global value chain?
Sometimes, you know, Europeans are a little bit less innovative than, for example, in the United States. So we have to be very innovative. We have to have less bureaucracy. I will cut maybe 30% of useless regulation at the member state level and also at the European level. In the southern countries, small and medium enterprises are not able to get lending from the banks, so they are not able to invest, they are not able to have the good people and trained people working with them. Access to finance, in my opinion, is one of the key problems to be solved immediately. And the banking union is a way to do it.
European countries are trying to grab the reins of competitiveness. Split up the map and you get the catching up cluster, faced with massive challenges but still trying. Then you have the moderates, who have challenges but are doing better. And then you have the consistent cluster of outstandingly competitive countries. The Netherlands and Amsterdam, where we are, feature prominently in that. So Sebastian Le Belzique went exploring to see how Amsterdam is going about it all.
There are more than 1,000 startups in Amsterdam. More mobile phone apps are created here than anywhere else in the world. Some are now calling it Amsterdam.
If you use a smartphone or a tablet, there's every chance that the apps it comes with were created in Amsterdam. The city is considered Europe's capital of new technologies.
So what's the secret of its success? André Hart set up his business just 3 years ago. Schoola is now the world leader in child-orientated content on the internet. Its location in Amsterdam is a crucial factor.
The combination of talents you have here, the international outlook, and at the same time also the creativity in combination with a lot of technological people makes it into a very attractive place. If you're not in Silicon Valley, I think Amsterdam is a very good place to start.
Mike Lee made the long trip from California to Amsterdam. The American software engineer used to work for Apple in the US.
In Germany? Amsterdam has an infrastructure that is scaled to meet the kind of density that it has. There are over 100 nationalities living here. You really get a world view of business that you get nowhere else in the world.
The city benefits from excellent infrastructures, a skilled workforce, tax incentives and a young population. Three elements that make Amsterdam one of Europe's most competitive cities. There are funding issues, however. State subsidies are few and banks are very cautious about lending.
Don't just focus on the banks or on investors, but try to focus on the market. Because if you find a big company that is looking for your kind of innovation and they bring you to market, the acceleration can be much bigger than when you find a 1 million or 5 million euro investment.
In the top 10 countries for capital venture investment in Europe, the Netherlands only ranks 6th. However, all the internet giants have a foothold in the country: Google, Twitter, Amazon and LinkedIn. This sector, which was faltering before the crisis of 2008, is today the most dynamic on the continent. Phone apps have created some 800,000 jobs in Europe, including 300,000 software developers.
Well, that's a wrap on Real Economy from Amsterdam. Join us next time to talk about globalization, trade, and how that plays a key role in this conversation about competitiveness. Until then, thanks for watching. Goodbye.